I, 44 female, divorced my ex-husband, 47, 2 years ago, and have been dating my boyfriend, 45, since. No cheating. My ex and I fought a lot, but the divorce was less litigious than expected. My ex-husband James and I were married for 21 years. In Massachusetts, I, as his ex-spouse, could stay on his group health insurance. In addition, the judge ordered that since I stayed home to raise our 4 kids, 21 male, 19 female, 18 male, teen male, I get alimony for life, or until only I, not my ex, remarried. In terms of health insurance, I'd lose it if either James or I remarried. However, James has been very open about the fact that he hates the idea of marrying again, even more than he hates me, still being covered under his health insurance policy. His exact words were, "Well, luckily for you, it's not emotionally or financially cost-effective for me to marry just to get you off my health insurance." For the entire length of our marriage, part of the reason I didn't work is because my ex is a doctor, and after doing calculations, we realized I'd never make enough to even get close to covering the child care cost for 4 kids. I checked and saw that if I had continued my administrative job, I'd be making $17 an hour today. I have no chance of making even that now. My boyfriend and I are very much in love. In many ways, I wish I'd met him first. He's empathetic, and unlike my ex, he values work-life balance instead of running between private practice and the psych ward at a county hospital to work 24/7. However, my boyfriend and I don't live together, and besides small presents to each other, we pay for ourselves. Things were good, but my boyfriend changed after I had a pregnancy scare. He said that if I got pregnant again, he wanted us to be living under one roof and not like 2 divorced parents. So he proposed. I was upset but had to turn it down because, love aside, this was my health insurance and only source of income on the line. I didn't understand why my boyfriend was so upset and didn't understand. He's a case manager at a nonprofit, and we'd be living on half the income I'm currently living on if we take out the child support, which is bound to create tension on both sides. Am I the idiot? I just want to add that we cannot move in together either, as the archaic family court laws would see that and assume that my boyfriend and I would be sharing finances, or that I would be supported by my boyfriend by the fact of us moving in together. If I could move in with him and not lose my benefits, we'd be doing so. You're an idiot, but let me summarize your situation. You've chosen a check from your ex over the love of your boyfriend. You do you, but your boyfriend is right to be angry. And if it were me, I'd leave your butt rather than play the game of, how can I get the love of one man and the money from another? That's BS. Stay-at-home mom? All the kids are in school or college. LOL, you're alone during the day. I'm not trying to be rude with this question, but what do you do all day? Why not go back to school or get training? Get a job. If your ex dies or becomes disabled and unable to pay alimony, you will be screwed. If your boyfriend is employed and has health insurance, when you get married, his health insurance will then be updated to cover you and your kids. Why not go back to school, get a job? Because that would require effort, and she thinks raising kids is worth a lifetime of alimony payments, even though everyone else, including her ex-husband, has to continue working. The kicker, she left him and still thinks this way. She's getting a free check and health insurance, something millions of Americans struggle with. In Massachusetts, she also gets a cut of his retirement funds. Since he's a doctor, she's likely all set. Jesus, don't get divorced in Massachusetts. My buddy was moving from Texas to Massachusetts. He mentioned to me that he was considering divorcing his wife after we moved there with her. I told him to get it done in Texas rather than in Massachusetts if he wanted to have a future. Boy, I love how she tries to play the victim, blaming archaic family court laws for not being able to move in with her boyfriend. The laws are the reason OP's sole income is alimony and child support. and she never has to get a job. She raised his kids and kept his home and life together for 21 years while he pursued a successful career. She fully supported his success. It wasn't a punishment for him to pay alimony. Alimony is awarded when a court determines that's her fair share of the life she worked for their family to have. OP, your new partner needs to understand that due to alimony moving forward, your relationships will not include marriage. If that's not something they're willing to compromise on, then they aren't the person for you. A few years ago, my brother Mark and I received a nice amount of money that we weren't expecting. I already had a good paying job, so I mostly invested or banked the money. Mark basically spent it all. He was 23 when he got it. I'm 10 years older than him. I'll never forget how he and his girlfriend of 2 years decided to get married and had a wedding that was so lavish that it was disgusting. I didn't go because I told his dumb idiot to get a prenuptial. Fast forward 4 years, and my brother and his soon-to-be ex-wife's rich facade is crumbling. She refuses to get a job, and he's out of trust money. They're behind on their mortgage, and they have no lifeline. He reached out to me for a loan. He asked for $25,000, which in itself isn't a lot for me. I asked him, "How much did you spend on your wedding?" He asked what that had to do with it. I said everything. He said he didn't remember, but maybe $40,000. I said, "So you and your worthless wife wasted $40,000 of your money on a gaudy wedding, and a few years later, you're asking to borrow money to pay your mortgage?" He said, "So you're not going to loan me money because I gave my wife the wedding of her dreams?" I said, "No, I'm not giving you money because you won't pay me back, but I wanted you to see your wife's dream wedding was a waste of money." He hung up, and it's been a week since we last spoke. You are the idiot. You threw a tantrum at 33 years old and refused to go to his wedding because of how he chose to spend his money, not yours. Assuming you're in the U.S., the average cost of a wedding in 2019 was about $34K, and they weren't wildly out of that realm. It's years later, and you're still holding on to that being the deciding factor for why they are where they are. Maybe instead of continuously focusing on the wedding, you should have encouraged him or guided him on how to save or invest the other money as his older brother. He might not have listened, but you could have tried. Weddings are incredibly important days, but more money doesn't make a wedding more important. No one remembers the stupid expensive stuff. A 500-pound wedding dress looks no different than a 5,000-pound wedding dress. And spending money you don't have is dumb and their own fault. All OP did was point out precisely where they went wrong. Yeah, they're crumbling in debt, and she refuses to find a job. It seems that OP's feelings are not far from reality. If your sister-in-law is refusing to find a job while your sibling is begging for money to make them float, I don't think you would have a high opinion about your sister-in-law. Not the idiot. There's nothing wrong with the healthy bit of "I told you so." If he didn't want to be "I told you so'd," he shouldn't have dug himself into such a big hole and then asked your father for a ladder. He should feel bad because he made bad choices. Before my wife and I got married, we agreed that she would get to name our first boy and I'd get to name our first girl. We recently discovered that she was pregnant with twins, and after talking about it, we decided to stick to our original plan. I thought everything would be fine, but ever since I heard the name she chose, we've been having problems. The name is bad. It sounds really stupid, and it's absolutely the kind of name that'll get our son bullied. I immediately vetoed it, but my wife said I couldn't because that wasn't our agreement. I asked why she insisted on this particular name. Apparently it comes from a character she identified with in one of her favorite books when she was growing up. But emotional attachment doesn't make the name itself any better. I said, fine, then I may as well name our daughter Hortensia Beerbong III. It sounds just as dumb. She told me I couldn't do that, and I just said, why not? It's my choice. That was the agreement. We've been at an impasse ever since. Now, I'm not going to actually name my daughter that, and I'm pretty sure my wife knows that too. I was just trying to help her see the mistake she was making, but she's not listening to reason. Recently, she started hinting she might just take off around her due date and give birth somewhere without me and my naming input. I think that's uncalled for, but I've got a week-long business trip that I can't get out of about a month before she's due, and I'm worried she'll take the opportunity to disappear until after the twins are here. I told my brother to keep an eye on her while I'm gone, but it's not like he can watch her 24/7. I think her name choice is dumb and will cause problems for our son, and she thinks I'm being controlling and overdramatic. Neither of us is willing to back down, but with her hints about skipping town for the birth, I've been wondering if things have gone too far. Am I the idiot? Everyone's the idiot here. You and your wife have more issues than just naming the children. For her to threaten to take off and have the birth without you and name the children to spite you, and then escalating by asking your brother to watch her, is not a good indicator for the health of your marriage. For many couples, naming their children 2 yeses is a win. A single no cancels that choice. You both should agree on the names. How old are you both? 11 and 12? Because that's the vibe I'm getting. Who makes a deal like this? I hope Megatron Jacob Edward and Hortensia Beerbong III have a good support network outside of you two that can handle the responsibility of raising a child. Counseling immediately, frequently. Hopefully, you can untangle this mess before you bring kids into it. I, 47 male, made the same promise to my 2 kids, Ronan, 21, and Lana, 18. I told them that if they graduated high school with above a 3.5 GPA, I'd buy them a new car and a graduation gift. Ronan absolutely rocked high school. He was his class valedictorian, played 3 sports, was captain of the debate team, participated in Model UN conferences frequently, was on the student council, and volunteered extensively. He now goes to an Ivy League school with a generous scholarship. Of course, he more than met my requirement, and I bought him a nice car that he chose. Lana, on the other hand, struggled. She needed tutoring for all 4 years and barely had any extracurriculars. I'd never say this to her face, but I'm relieved that she graduated at all. I'm proud of her for working so hard to pass her classes, but she mostly got D's and C's and plans to go to our local community college, which basically takes anyone. Unfortunately, she didn't get a high enough GPA to meet my requirements. I did get her a nice graduation gift, but it was less expensive than Ronan's car. When the end of the school year rolled around, Lana started showing me different used cars she'd like. I assumed she was planning on buying one for herself and wanted my advice, so I worked with her to find one in good condition at a fair price, and she finally picked one out. The trouble came about 2 weeks after she decided on her car. She asked me, "Whatever happened to the car that I wanted?" I was confused and said, "I don't know, did you buy it?" From there, we both became more and more incredulous until it came out that she'd expected me to buy the car for her. Apparently, for years she had assumed that my promise to buy her a new car if she got a certain GPA meant that I would buy her a used car regardless of her academic accomplishments. She accused me of favoritism and misogyny and said that if Ronan had failed school, her words, as she had, I would have still bought him a car because he's my favorite and also a boy. This is not and was never the case. I would have made this clear to her if she had just asked. Lana went to the rest of the family with some sob story about favoritism, and now nearly a month later, my sister, brother, and parents have all chipped in to get Lana a used car. Everyone who chipped in has been very distant with Ronan and me. I've tried to explain myself, but no one will give me the time of day. Ronan is the only one who doesn't think I'm a misogynist and a terrible father. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot for making this deal in the first place. Not everyone is an academic rock star, and by your own admission, Lana tried really hard. She just isn't on the same academic level as Ronan. Also, there was a panini during her high school time. Of course, there weren't a lot of extracurricular things. Not surprisingly, there may have been more of a struggle with classes and learning. You seriously couldn't help her out with getting a used car? This poor girl was probably miserable for 4 full years while her dad fawned over her brother. The story reduced it to, yeah, she got C's and D's after tutoring. But thinking about the absolute misery makes me so sad for her. And I'm sure OP never had her evaluated for things like dyslexia or ADHD, which could be a potential cause. At least she has some decent relatives. In OP's story, I didn't read anything about partying, drinking, stealing, fighting, making babies, or hanging around the wrong crowd. All I read is she tried her best, and that wasn't good enough for OP. That's like choosing to reward the winner of a foot race when one of them has a cast on. I hope OP will be old and lonely one day because his genius son won't have time for his elderly dad, and his daughter will go no contact with him as soon as possible. Some parents won't understand the concept of unconditional love, even if you draw them a picture. I'm 44, and I had my son Jim young. He's 27 this year. Jim has had an interesting love life, and his demand for what I must do to make his new person feel part of the family is a lot. Oh, of course we made them feel welcome, but he always pushed for us to go on shopping trips and other bonding activities. His first wife I really liked, and it was easy, but they were married for only 2 years. His next wife was rough. She wasn't really interested in a relationship with me, but he pushed and made situations where we would have to be together. This is one of the reasons I think she divorced him. He's engaged again, and I'm refusing to do it anymore. Yes, I will be polite and welcome her. I get family, but I do not have a deeper relationship. I'm sick of getting to know people and having to drop them when they divorce because it'd be seen as me picking my son's ex over my son. They wanted me to take a girls' trip to New York, and I shot it down. I told them I didn't wish for a deep relationship with her, that I won't go on any trips or bonding activities. She left, and my son is angry that I rejected his fiancée. We got into a huge argument, and he called me an idiot. Am I the idiot? Third marriage at 27. Maybe you should choose some of the daughter-in-law sides. He sounds wonderful. Not the idiot. You don't need to form a deep bond with your son's flavors of the month. Well, wedding venues and planners love the son. I would ask your son why he gets married and divorced so often. He's already on his third soon-to-be wife and not even 30 years old yet. At this rate, he's going to easily surpass Elizabeth Taylor in the number of marriages before he dies. Is that his goal in life? Your son would benefit from some therapy. You're the kind of mother-in-law a lot of women and men want. Not overly involved, not up in their business, not calling or showing up to the farm for information and insight you have no business in. Your son, meanwhile, is being ridiculous, and it seems he's found a wife just as ridiculous as him. You are not obligated to have friendships or relationships where you don't want them. Full stop. I disagree. You are the idiot. $20 says you change your tune if and when they have kids, and you can't get mad at your son or daughter-in-law if they deny you much access to your grandchildren because you don't want a deeper relationship with their mom. Besides, if you find it so rude to drop someone because they're your son's ex, why don't you find it rude to tell someone you don't want to get to know them? That's rude, especially if she's about to be family. You're allowed to be as cold and distant as you want, but don't come crying when they cut you out of their life because it's what you asked for. You don't want to know your son's wife. Any consequence of that statement are 100% on you and your own doing. If my parents said that, you best believe I'd choose my spouse over my parent, even if it was my third or fourth or fifth spouse. Doesn't matter. You're rude. You handled this beyond poorly.